Howdy friends, Bevan Cohen here at Small House Farm. You know, I was just out here pruning the tomatoes and I thought this would be a great time for a midsummer tomato tour. Show off some of the great heirloom tomatoes that we're growing this year at Small House Farm. I guess we're just going to start here at the beginning of the row and work our way down. I got here my handy dandy garden notebook, and this is something I recommend to all gardeners. I like to keep track of everything that I grow every year. I'll draw a little bit of a map, label it. You know, we'll use plant tags sometimes, but gosh, between the kids and the birds, they get lost. The rain will wash the labels off. There's always something that happens with them, right? What I find is going to work out the best throughout the garden season is writing it down in a notebook. Certainly, this is a trick that I've learned over the years, and I highly recommend it to everybody. So the first tomato on the list here is Thessaloniki. Now this is a beautiful Greek tomato. This is our second or third year growing it. We've been offering the seeds on our website. Nice, full, round, your classic round red tomato. Nice and meaty, classic heirloom flavor. This one's been a winner for sure. You know, at Small House, we try to grow different tomatoes every year. Just since we're offering seeds online, you know, I like to share that diversity, but this is one, I think I might grow it every year. It is just an awesome tomato, real delicious. You can see we've already got a number of good fruits coming on, and there are a lot of green tomatoes out here. You can see that nice classic round red shape. Beautiful, beautiful tomato. Okay, next down the row, what we've done here, you'll see, is in between our stakes along our Florida weave, we've got 3 plants. And what I tried to organize, each segment, so to speak, is going to be its own variety. So here in this next segment, we have got the Xanadu Green Goddess. What a tomato we got here. So what I want you to observe here is the difference in the leaf color even. And this is something that we can note as we move through all the tomatoes. We know that the tomatoes themselves, the fruits all look different, certainly, but the leaf structure and the way that these plants grow are each different. So when we grow all these different tomatoes like this, it's a great opportunity to observe all these different ways that these plants express their diversity. And there's perhaps no tomato as diverse as the Xanadu Green Goddess. You can see this beautiful dark shoulders. That's the anicyathin. It's an antioxidant that we're going to find that's going to give this coloration of this tomato, but this is actually a green when ripe variety. It's going to get a bit of a yellow hue to it and a little bit of give, a little bit of softness. That's how you're going to identify it when it's ripe, but it is just a fancy tomato. This came from an accidental cross, right? There's a gentleman, tomato breeder, his name's Blaine Horton, and he had sent some seeds out to a number of different people to grow them out. And my friend Trisha Rosamilia in Pennsylvania actually grew these seeds and discovered this accidental cross, this totally different tomato. And she's the one that named it, Xanadu Green Goddess. And man, I'm excited to be growing it here at Small House. This is a wonder. So I want you to see what this beauty looks like. So we're going to put a picture of it ripe right up here so you can see that. And let's just keep doing that as we move along because you got to see these beauties as they grow. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, up next, we've got a classic Small House tomato right here. Now this is Elijah's Yellow Pear. And you know, I just got done telling you that we do them in segments of 3, but this one right here we've only got 2 of, and that's just simply because these are incredibly prolific tomatoes. 2 sets of Elijah's Yellow Pear is really gonna pump out oodles of fruits throughout the season for sure. Now these are gonna be small, pear-shaped yellow tomatoes, as the name would suggest. But what's really special about these, aside from that sweet, delicious flavor, is that this is the first tomato our oldest son Elijah ever enjoyed, you know? And we're going to kind of flash back to years ago when he was a young lad. He wouldn't eat tomatoes at all. Now, he didn't mind pizza sauce or ketchup or those sorts of things, but that's a different conversation, right? Kid would not eat a tomato. And we were in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, visiting a greenhouse there. We were dropping some seeds off to some folks, and they had a big old bush yellow pear growing outside. And being the ever-curious kid that he is, he grabbed a few, snacked them down, and said, "Dad, I love them." Loved them so much, he loaded himself up a little jar, filled them up with tomatoes, brought them home, saved the seeds himself, right? Young kid, saved his own seeds. He's been growing the tomato and harvesting those seeds ever since. So this is a real groovy tomato, and it highlights just how easy seed saving can be, right? Even kids can do it. Elijah's Yellow Pear, always a winner. This is what it looks like. All right, let's keep going. All right, up next we got a fun one. First thing I want you to notice is the difference in the leaf, right? Distinctly different than any of these other tomatoes. This is what's known as a potato leaf variety. Simply because the leaf, well, looks like potato leaves. This is black Trifele. It's called Japanese black Trifele, which is interesting because it's actually a Russian tomato. Its origins come from Russia, but we call it the Japanese black Trifele. There's a number of Trifele tomatoes, all just described by their color. This is the black because it's going to get very, very dark, again with those anthocyanins, which is a wonderful antioxidant that gives that dark, dark color to our tomatoes. You'll see the shape of this tomato is a little bit more pear-shaped, much like the Elijah's Yellow Pear, but larger. They're going to be about 6-ounce fruits, and they're going to be not only pear-shaped, but pear size. And they're going to be a dark, delicious, great umami flavor. Nice and thick too. You can use it as a sauce tomato, but boy, I'm probably going to take the first one out here, and I'm going to eat it right in the garden, maybe with the shaker salt. We'll see how it goes. Real beauties. Get up close and look at these. Our seeds came from Baker Creek Heirloom seeds, actually. We rarely buy seeds at all here at Small House, but every once in a while we do, and we typically will get our seeds from Baker Creek. They offer a great line of different heirloom varieties. I'll put their link down in the description for this video. If you don't have that already, you got to check them out. They're doing some good stuff. But this is a tomato I'm excited about. It's our first time growing it, and they are just covered in green fruits already. Here we're in for a treat with this one, folks. This is a tomato. This is our first time growing this one here at Small House, but this is a legendary tomato that I've been familiar with for quite some time. You'll see that it's a little bit shorter in stature than the other plants, but that's all right. You know, it's probably going to catch up, or maybe that's just the nature of the beast here. This is a tomato known as Vincent Watts. Now, you'll see here in the picture that it's a pink tomato, large, about 1 pound, slightly flattened type of beefsteak style. This tomato gets its name from Mr. Vincent Watts himself, who has grown this tomato. He grew this tomato for 52 years, up until he passed away. I think it was in 2008. He worked at Berea College down in Kentucky, and he shared some of these seeds with his friend Bill Best. And that's where I got the tomatoes, was from Mr. Bill Best. Now, Bill Best is a legend of sorts, and if you're not familiar with him, I'm going to drop a bunch of links down in the description for this video so you can check out his work. He is a scholar, a historian, a storyteller, a seed saver. Bill Best is a literal superhero, and I was honored to have Bill actually write the foreword for my first book, From Our Seeds and Their Keepers. Now, the Vincent Watt tomatoes here, actually, I believe is the tomato on the cover of Bill's book, Kentucky Heirlooms. So I'm going to put that link down there for you to check out as well. Another wonderful book. Bill is a heck of a storyteller. So I'm honored to have the opportunity to grow this tomato. It's just a piece of history right here, and we get to be a part of the story now because it's in our garden. All right, let's move on. The next one is the Kosovo tomato. Now this beautiful tomato right here, I'm actually in love with the flowers. They are just beautiful, so they really have some interesting coloration on some of them. This Kosovo tomato right here. Now this is actually, well, from Kosovo, is the homeland country, the namesake of the tomato. It was brought to the States by a gentleman that worked for the UN, who shared the seeds with a lady named Carolyn Mail, who then introduced them to the tomato seed trade. I haven't really seen these offered commercially very often, but they're certainly out there, and certainly one that I recommend. Again, this is another pink tomato, similar to the Vincent Watts, but it has a much different shape. This is actually more of a heart-shaped tomato. It's going to be a little bit smaller, and it's really going to have a very distinct heart shape. You can see it on this fruit right here. Even this young green fruit already is starting to look very distinctly like a heart. So I'm pretty excited about that. You can kind of see some ribbing in it. Interesting texture. This is one that I'm definitely excited about. Again, a first-year tomato here at Small House Farm, and hopefully we'll have seeds to share with everybody for next season's grow out. All right, let's keep going. We got a lot of tomatoes to look at, folks. Now these little cuties right here are certainly a special tomato. Although I've probably used the word special for every one of these, it's like picking my favorite child. I just love them all so much. But this one here is very unique, and this may be one of the few places in the world that you can get your hands on this tomato. This is the yellow Candy Currant. And when you look at it up close, you'll see, boy, these tiny, tiny little flowers and tiny, tiny little green tomatoes all over the place. Now, it's not really a currant by any means. It's just kind of the name given to the tomato because it has very, very small currant-like fruits. This tomato actually came from a gentleman by the name of James, who ran an organization not far from here called Grow Saginaw, which unfortunately is now defunct, but in its heyday, they were actually finding empty lots throughout the city of Saginaw and turning them into community gardens. It was pretty awesome stuff, very, very important work, and it was really cool to be a small part of that program. And throughout my little bit of time working with those guys, he had shared some of these seeds with me. Now, this was one of James's own breeding projects right here. He was making these selections for the sweetest and most delicious little yellow fruits. And it was a project he worked on for a number of years before he shared the seeds with me. And then I shared the seeds with some folks in Holland, Michigan. They had the opportunity to grow quite a bit of them, so we could do some great selections there. And they selected seeds from only the sweetest and tastiest tomatoes, which then we got back from them and we're growing here at Small House Farm. So I'm really, really excited to have this very unique, very rare variety, and it looks like things are going quite well, so we should be able to offer these awesome seeds to all y'all for next growing season. Beauties. All right, looks like we're moving on to the second row already. This actually gives you a good chance to see the Florida weave system that we've got. You can see it here, which is essentially a system of twine between the T-posts that we use to support our plants. Tell you what, we're going to be making a video about the Florida weave here in the near future, so keep an eye on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already, right? And then you'll be able to see how to make a Florida weave for your own gardens too. Now, up front here, look at these tomatoes. Now, they are wispy, they are thin, and they always look like they need to be watered. But I'm promising you folks, they're getting just as much water as everybody else. These plants have looked like this since they were seedlings. And I guess it's just the way that they grow. Very interesting and very different. This is a tomato known as striped Cavern. Now, you'll see in the picture here of the ripe tomato why it gets its name, striped, certainly. And it's called Cavern because it's actually a little bit hollow on the inside. There's some empty space in there, making this a wonderful tomato for stuffing with other things, cheeses, maybe some basil, putting it in the oven and baking it. Absolutely delicious. Now, I got these seeds from my friend Jill, who owns a company called Urban Tomato in Canada. She's doing some really groovy things up there. You got to check it out. Again, yet another link down below. So you got to go down to that video description and check out all these links. You don't want to miss out on what Jill's doing. I actually met Jill in person for the first time at the Seed Savers Exchange annual conference and camp out in Iowa a few years back. We were both speakers there that year. We got to have lunch together. It was pretty cool. And she shared some of these seeds with me, which were special to her because they were some of the first seeds that she ever saved, which kind of was the inspiration for starting the Urban Tomato business. So they were unique to her. We became friends. She shared them with me. Very sentimental. I'm excited to grow them because they're cool looking, and I'm sure that they're going to be tasty. But that connection to my friends, to these stories, to that history, that's what gets me the most excited about seeds, right? That's what gets me the most excited about these particular tomatoes, too. Plus, they sure do look unique. All right, let's see what else we got in the row. All right, so this plant here, I've only got the one of. You can see coming down the row that we've got all those striped caverns right up to this point. You can definitely see the difference from one to the next as far as the structure of the plant goes. This is Gregorys Altai is what it's called. And it's a very, very rare tomato from the Altai Mountains of Siberia, right along the border near China. It's a pinkish beefsteak style tomato, which is kind of the theme. Apparently, we've got a few of those growing, which is kind of fun because, you know, I always try to grow a bunch of different tomatoes, different colors, different shapes, different styles, that sort of thing. But you seem to gravitate towards certain things each year, and I think this is the third pink tomato we've talked about, so I guess this is the year of the pink tomato. But this one here, out of all these things, maybe this is the one I'm the most excited about, but it's hard to say. But really, I've only got the one plant. The seeds that I had were quite old. They were a number of years old, and I didn't get good germination rates on them. I got two plants to grow. One of them was very, very weak and didn't do well, so I rogued it, and this is the survivor right here. But dig it, guys. Look at all these fruits. Just right down here is a whole cluster. There's 4 big tomatoes there. There's a couple more coming up here. I think it's going to be pretty prolific, and we're going to have lots of seeds of this rare variety to share. So again, Gregorys Altai, I am pretty stoked about it. But again, just round, pink, beefsteak style tomatoes. But if they're growing up in Siberia, boy, they're going to just do fine here in Michigan, right? All right, cool. Up next is, another sentimental variety. So let's get over there and we can talk about that one too. All right, guys, I'm about to go wild right here. Look at it's the first blush of color on any of the tomatoes. Just a little bit, just a hint of orange, but that's all it takes to get me excited this time of year. There's nothing better than that first ripe tomato of the year. Boy, I'm getting a little too stoked. This is exciting stuff. This is the Old Carolina tomato, also known as the Nell Bryson. If you've read my book, From Our Seeds and Their Keepers, I mentioned it earlier, the link's down below, then you're probably already familiar with this tomato. This is a tomato that I got, again, from Bill Best. I was at Bill Best Seed Swap, and a young man shared these seeds with me. They'd been in his grandmother's freezer for 50 years, and from that we got this old-fashioned Old Carolina tomato. Well, I did an event this last year for Slow Food USA. We were part of the Plant a Seed campaign, and this was the tomato seed of ours that you could get. They had tomato seeds from a bunch of small growers like us. You could get a little kit and take it to your school garden or what have you, and this was the seed that we contributed. So, got me back on the kind of kick for studying the history of this tomato, and I was able to actually find the grandma, Nell Bryson herself. I found her down in Kentucky. I didn't get to chat with her so much, but I spent a lot of time talking to her daughter and finding out the history of this tomato. Such exciting stuff. This is a historic variety that everyone should grow. Big, whopping tomatoes, kind of a yellowish orange with a red core. They're absolutely gorgeous. 1.5 to 2 pound fruits. They're tremendous. And one thing that I love about it is, even though it's putting out big tomatoes, it's going to put out a bunch of them. In my experience, tomato plants that put out big fruits, they're going to put a lot of energy into that, and they're only going to give you a few of them. But the Old Carolina here, the Nell Bryson tomato, she's just going to pump out giant fruits right up until frost. Frost came last year a little early. I filled bushel baskets with green tomatoes off of these plants that ripen up in the house, and we got to enjoy tomatoes for months after frost. Right here, this is the one. If you're going to get any seeds from us next year, this is one of the ones that I highly recommend. Everyone should be growing the Nell Bryson tomato. The last tomato in the row right here, the black Vernissage. Now this is a Ukrainian variety. It's a saladette type, so they're only going to be maybe 2 to 3 ounce small tomatoes, but absolutely beautiful. Now there's a series of Vernissage tomatoes, all different colors. There's a green and a yellow and a red, but the black is probably the most distinct. Again, it's got that dark anisothyin. It's got some red and green stripes on it. Absolutely a gorgeous tomato. Now these seeds again came from our friends over at Baker Creek, and I'm excited to have this opportunity to grow them. I rarely see the black Vernissage alone. A lot of the times you're going to buy all 4 of those different colors in kind of a mix. So it's really cool to have this one isolated and have an opportunity just to grow it. Now, down the rest of the row here, we've got a couple of repeats, some purple tomatillo, some orange eggplants, all sorts of cool stuff. But if you want to learn about those, well, guess you're going to have to subscribe to the channel and tune in at another time. Am I right? All right, well, it's back to work for me. I got some pruning to do. Got to prune these tomatoes and maybe run out a couple more lines on the old Florida weave here. And if you'd like to learn about that, make sure you're tuning in. Our next video is going to be all about how to take care of your tomato plants. See you next time, folks. Happy growing.